Hey guys, this is Kyle and Adam at ProjectionHub. We are back with another edition of what we like to call SBA Burning Questions. And in today's video, we have a Reddit post that we're going to review here. And this is, a real person that is considering the acquisition of a small clinic, and to kind of give a little bit of background here and list some questions. And so I'm going to go over this quick, and we're going to get Adam's feedback on, how he would advise this person. So here we go. They're buying a small clinic. Recently, they've been offered a chance to buy a small 20-year-old clinic. They are a clinician themselves. The clinic was previously valued around $360,000 a couple years back, but has not sold. I suspect because of the lack of nice-to-have equipment and paper charts rather than electronic. Based on the owner's P&L, her net income is around $250,000, including her salary, husband's salary, and benefits. Recently, I was given the opportunity to purchase a clinic for a reasonable offer. I pitched $60,000 and surprised they accepted. The sudden drop in price was because she had a stroke that resulted in hospitalization for 10 days. Because of this, her husband is pushing her to retire. However, their lease is up this month. The landlord requested an LOI before end of July if they wanted to keep going. Thus, they need to find someone willing to take over or just shut down for good. Seller is expected to stay on for 6+ months during the transition period. Landlord seems flexible on lease duration. But being in healthcare, my business background is limited, so I was hoping for some guidance on a few questions. Seller shows a hefty profit, but their tax return shows a negative business income with a discrepancy around $60,000. I asked the seller who requested I talk to their broker. What are some common causes for such a big difference? So if you want to kind of give your 2 cents first, and maybe, that seems like that's a big thing we hear all the time. People see this discrepancy between reported tax return income and what they're seeing on like financial statements. So maybe take a stab at that one first.
Yeah, so it says based on the owner's P&L, her net income is around $250, including her salary and husband's salary, but then the tax returns are showing negative income. So the only thing I can figure for that big of a difference would be that on the tax return, the salary that they are paying themselves as owner's compensation, or officer compensation, there's probably a line on the tax return that says officer compensation, and that may be, that could be $250,000 or whatever they paid themselves could be showing up as an expense on the tax return as officer comp, and then the taxable net income on top of that is negative in this case, I suppose. So that'd be the big thing I'd be looking out for, is if there is a line item called officer compensation on the tax return, and whatever that number is, that is payment to themselves. So hopefully that's there. If not, then yeah, that sounds like a red flag.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's second question here. What are some tasks that should be completed before submitting the LOI versus afterwards doing the due diligence period? This is actually something I think we get questions about. A lot of times people are trying to balance what things they should do at different points in time. Like sometimes we'll have people come to us and like, I'm ready to write the full business plan. And, they haven't even submitted the LOI, or they don't even know if this is going to move forward. So that might be an example of a thing you could probably wait to do that until after you've dug through the documentation to see what makes sense. But anything else that sticks out to you for that one?
It depends on if you're trying to get an SBA loan. In this case, it's only $60,000 purchase price, so I'm guessing they're probably not using SBA financing for that, hopefully. So, from that perspective, then I don't think you necessarily need to worry about what the cash flow looks like. But yeah, if you were looking at it from SBA lender perspective before LOI, I usually try to do a rough cash flow analysis to see how the deal will cash flow historically based on the historic tax returns and then the proposed SBA loan. But in this case, it seems like if you're going to be a cash buyer, then you probably can just move to LOI, and, in due diligence, you could always find issues that you want to potentially change the LOI based on due diligence, or change the purchase agreement based on due diligence.
Sure. I think that makes sense. And yeah, a big part of this too is, I don't want to scoff at $60,000, right? It's I'm not saying that they just have that laying around and it's not a big decision to get into this, and there's some things that might fall from that, but obviously that purchase price changes the math here quite a bit on maybe what they can get away with. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's probably what is enough for them to see to have confidence to give it a go. Assuming, they're not financing at least through a conventional route or SBA. So I think it's just, that would be my answer to this person is, you gave some good feedback there, but it's you just go ask and prepare things until you feel comfortable moving forward with this. Cause I'm assuming at this size, it's probably just the independent doctor there, right? That's kind of handling everything here, and it's going to be kind of a one-to-one transition. So that kind of leans into question number 3, which probably isn't in our necessarily like our wheelhouse of expertise, but they're saying it's unlikely to have 100% patient retention. A lot of growth strategies in mind, any way to calculate a tangible number for that. But I don't know, do we have like a benchmark number where we would assume patient retention whenever putting together projections or something like that?
I think it's going to depend on the situation. I think, I actually was just working with another doctor, and he had bought a practice. Actually sounds kind of like a similar scenario. He had bought a practice, and that practice, the patients were all on like membership. It was like a concierge medicine. They're on membership. And so he said after he purchased, they reached out to their patients to like, let them know about the transition. And he said a lot of them were like, oh, I didn't even know I was still paying for this. So they did lose some patients, but I think it was, in his case, maybe 20% or something that didn't continue on once they notified. So 80%. In this case, if you get anywhere close to 80%, like if you're making net profit or compensation to the owners of $250,000, my thought is just, if you can live on $150,000, you're going to have that $60,000 purchase price like recouped in like 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months of operating. So because the purchase price is so reasonable, I think this deal just makes sense.
Yep. 100% agree. I would say that number is probably best about using, or less about using an industry best practice from like a scenario planning, and more just looking at like what you're spending and how much you want to make, and like determine like how bad could this go and it would still be worth it to me. Like if that's half the people leave right away, is it still worth it to you? Yeah, I think that's a good take. Now, obviously, these people probably aren't doing SBA, but I think a lot of the same principles apply. It's just that there's the smaller the deal, the more wiggle room you have when I think determining, what you're going to be comfortable proceeding with. But anything else you would advise this person on?
No, I don't really think so, other than, just that compensation of officers number is the big thing here. And if that is not there, then this seems like a major red flag that the tax returns are so different than what they were telling them their profit was. So yeah, just be on the lookout.
Yeah. And the fact that they noted paper charts rather than electronic, that would probably jump out to me about just like the reliability of the numbers themselves. And maybe even like, are you going to be going through a filing cabinet like looking for like receipts and charts and stuff just to even determine, like, is it even worth their time, I think, to get to the bottom of a reliable number? Or maybe they have an accountant or something. But there you have it, another edition of SBA Burning Questions. If you are out there, you're considering potential acquisition, we've been reviewing a lot of posts and people reaching out for situations like this because they're all so unique. And so we love hearing about these little different scenarios. So if you're out there and you're considering buying a business, evaluating a deal, we actually offer what we call a free expert SBA review. That's linked down in the description below. You can kind of give us this kind of background that you see right here and get some personalized feedback from Adam on how he would advise you moving forward. So check that out, like the video, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.